Tēnā rawara e tātou mā tātou kokotona no te tokotoru tapu tau maina. Whakarongo maina no i ngā kupu tuku iho kia koutou. Whakanui iho whakatau atu anō hoki i te wā, rāra ki te wā tonu nei, ki te WhakataungaKereeme. E whae ngā tinei ki roto ki ngā kōrero, i roto i awa kōrero tonura, kia tino u atu, whakatutuki pai mai anu ai, rā i ngā āhuatanga ki ngā kōrero katoa me ngā take, o roto i ngā kōrero tēnei rā no reira, e whakamue miti no hoku, whakanui, whakawhētai rawa, Gloria ki tō uingoa tapu te iehua, karaiti, ka tikara hoki kōkoe ke whakanui pou hoko, pou hiri, pou whakaura, ake, ai tō hui ingoa tapu. Mene, ka piti hono ka tātai hono, ko rātau mā tonu anō tērā rātau, kua riro noa atu rā ki tua te ārai o te mate, riro atu rā. Ka piti hono ka tātai hono, ko tātou mā tonu anō tēnei tātou, te kā anohi ora, kia tātou mā kuang, kai te mihi atu, tēnā nau mai haere, piki, kake haramai nau mai, tēnā rā tātou, kai te mihi atu, tēnei au ka mihi atu, tēnei au te mihi kaua ke nei. Mauri ora. Kahuri. Kia ora, ko hoki tēnei ko hoki mai anō tēnei rā, tēnei o tātou kuau, ana, iauna, te ariki matua kāia, ko hoki mai anō ai rā, ki roto ki a tātou, ki roto nā tonu anō, tātou mā kuau, kōrero tonu ake atu anō ai ngā take, hei whai atu, ki roto ki ngā WhakataungaKereeme, kia Tahumaakaakanuimatua, hapu nui tonu re tā rewa, ki te ruamano, ki te tau, te ruamano, ruatakau mā toru, kai te mihi atu nau mai haere, kuhu mai, nau mai, hou mai, kahuri. Ai, tēnā rā tātou. Yes, all geared up for it today, so things are going pretty well, even though things are pretty busy these days. I'm pretty well prepared, so I can get everything in, and so far I don't have to use the whole of 6 days. If you can remember, I did mention I was to lose my 4-day week from last week, and I would have to take on 6 days. So now I'm on so it's not 6 days. I've managed to get everything into a 5-day week, and am rolling along quite nicely and still quite relaxed, though I'm a lot busier than usual. But then again, a lot more productive, just the way that we're smartly organised around things, and we pretty much we learned very quickly how to get through everything in this space, pretty much in one piece. As terrible as the opposition and the Crown, well, the Crown mainly, centrally it's the Crown, who's at fault. As centrally as they made the space so dangerous and difficult terrain to navigate through over times, we've always managed to get through whatever challenges that came our way in one piece. So here we are again, and just so that you know clearly the state of play, we've got some more on the political the political, the status of play, the political state of play at the moment. Lots going on. We've got some more of that after the update. We've got a wee bit more. I forgot last week to mention a lot on the ReoHapu. Now, just some news to hand. This is very recent, just like the kōrero around settlements. Within the settlements update, you'll get some new kōrero coming through there as well for us here in Wairarapa te Mataua Māui. But also around things to do with te ReoHapu. Now, we were going to be releasing a lot of that, a lot of te ReoHapu that we're going to be using biblically. Just in the past week, we've had to sort of hold that up. And so people will have to await. It's just that we have to wait for the outcomes of some of the present challenges that we're facing at the moment to do with other tribes, other groups that we need to get through first. The way that we continue to utilize that publicly, that reo publicly, just that biblical side, even that is so very, very high priority and so very, very difficult to utilize just freely and openly, because people can use it for all sorts of political advantage, and all that sort of thing. People can exploit that. People can take advantage of that deal quite simply. And it is some of the most precious in the country, not just in this region, but in the country. And so we have to safeguard, we have to shield, we have to steward all our taonga tukuiho, just like our ReoHapu. And so we're going to be holding that up. I'm sorry, that's the use of it, but the PaeperaKoroutu is still going ahead, because by then, it's over a year away before we start on that. So by then, hopefully, and I would say we'd be pretty close to concluding the challenges that we have before us. But then again, we don't know the total nature of challenges. There's two in particular. Well, the third one is, I'll cover in the update, is around TeTiriti 1840 and the Crown. So that'll come up in the updates. And it's one, these challenges are ones that we actually want to follow through with. We don't know at the moment how they're going to affect our settlements, but we do know they will affect the other settlements. Okay? And that's what we want, because within the update you'll get to hear all that kōrero, because among a lot of the settlements, what we've managed to pick out is a lot of discrepancies, a lot of corrupted and flawed areas of those settlements, and also just a very what's the word for that? It seems like that they've the latest lot of claims, even though they were taken out urgently, and from two of the more junior groups within the region, they have actually been taken out quite carelessly, within their majority of, even though they're quite small bases which they've settled on. Quite clearly, except for one of them, that's Te Tapere Nui o Whātonga. We've got no worries with that one, except that we also whakapapa into that one as well. Okay? So the difficulty with that one, but we're not te tini o toi, so we're not too worried about that one. And so that's the difficulty with that one. But the difficulty with the others is that they've been extremely careless in actually settling over with a rangitane or a Wairarapa moana settlement across a majority of areas that are actually Tahumaakaakanuimatua. So we are having to initially go into discussions around those. We've already started into discussions with lawyers. We've started into discussions with soon to come with police, through whom we may forward the investigations. But we don't think that the TeTiriti 1840 case that we're going to take straight to court, it seems, against the Crown should affect our settlements in any way. It shouldn't do. It shouldn't do, because it doesn't directly it doesn't directly deal with anything to do with the settlements or anything like that, in the interim. So e tatauma, some very important take going on there. And of course, we're not holding up the translation, the PaeperaKoroutu translation beginning in over a year's time. We won't be holding that up, but the use of Te Reo Hapu biblically, yes, I think that's a sensible thing for us to do. We may need to hold that up, but we need to be mindful that that may happen over the next few weeks or couple of months or so. So if you hear about that, if you hear that we've held up the actual public use now, what we've got out there we're fine with, but we won't be adding to it. Because publicly we would be putting our reo hapu into the hands of exploiters and people that would politically take advantage of such reo. Okay, so we need to hold that up, but the actual PaeperaKoroutu is still moving forward. We haven't got too much more to add to my ex-whānau mob. We think we covered most of the things that there are there majorly last week. I think the main thing in there is that in actual fact, they see clearly that there's no way forward through looking at me returning to such a whānau or anything like that. I would seriously discourage that. I think it's unrealistic, and I think it's just like what we've got within the space, within the hapu development industry space. As soon as kahunu rangitane went against us under the Crown, we had the most conflicting, challenging, dangerous, and potentially devastating and destructive environment and climate within the atmosphere, also within the space that we could ever have. Okay, and that's why things have come to the points that they have. And so, but yeah, we're going to be looking into firstly discussing with those groups the nature of settlements and where they've settled and the reasons for, and all the different details through those settlements, because we do believe there is a majority of Tahumaakaakanuimatua lands involved in those settlements, and if there is, we're going to take them to court. The investigation will prove that first for us, and then we'll take them to court. Quite clearly they would be illegal settlements. I'm just going into the update now. But I'll leave most of that for the time when we get up to the update, okay? Now, so the TeTiriti 1840 and the fraudulent way in which the Crown was able to assume sovereignty in the country through the use of TeTiriti 1840 is quite clear to us and well evidenced. And so we're looking to take the Crown to court. Hopefully it doesn't affect our settlements, and it shouldn't do. The other two investigations shouldn't also affect our settlements, and so we should be fine there. Nothing wrong with challenging the state of settlements of other groups within your region. I mean, let's not forget, we're the only tribe that whakapapa genealogically to the entire of Wairarapa-ki-Tararuo-te-Mataua-Māori. We are the same in Here-Taunga-Rarau-te-Wairua, whakapapa to the entirety, and we're also the ancient line in both those regions left, the Ahikaroa as well, and so there you go. The nature of our claims in those regions, including Wairarapa-ki-Tararuo-te-Mataua-Māori. So these other groups should have been a lot more careful, but this is what we've been able to pick up on them and gather and collate around these settlements, these settlements to date. So formally, even with the Crown, we would need to lodge formal complaints and bail those people into court because they can't settle on land that isn't theirs. We can see that they've tried their hardest to round down all their claims. They used to overclaim quite considerably before. From 2009, for instance, both Kahunu and Rangitane were claiming the entirety of Wairarapa together, and the same for Here-Taunga-Rarau-te-Wairua. I think today what we've got in Wairarapa is the disbanding of the two, and the involvement of 5 different groups, including us. We're the only united one, but a disunited group of about 3 or 4, including the Crown of them within the region. So, but we're going to check out these other 2 groups that have started settling. Now, we believe their settlements are all done. So now that they're done, whatever proof there is, and there's bound to be a considerable amount of proof that they're settled illegally and on lands that actually belong to Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Whether they like it or not, we have been here for over 1,000 years, and these people need to understand the nature of claims of the Tahumaakaakanuimatua within these regions quite clearly, because we don't think they do, because they're too hung up on what the process can do for them. Okay? Now, last year in 2002, the end of 2002, the House of Representatives, around the final reading of the Wairarapa-Tararua Settlement Bill, they mentioned that the state of LNG, you know, the grand narrative recognition of LNGs, like what they've done for Wairarapa-Tararua in the past, is now being discounted as a result of the kahungunu asking for that to be the case because of their recognition and acknowledgement of the fact that they have always been settled under the wrong tribe, or under a tribe that was called the iwi, which in any case, if it was their iwi, was the wrong one. Okay? And that brings us into, I mean, we're the only other iwi claiming in the region, so the acceptance is that we are the primary iwi and claimant iwi of the region. So here we are, making sure that people know that and feel that and accept that we're going to do everything and anything it takes to ensure that justice is restored for us. But not just for us, but for everybody. Let's not forget, as explained through Maihi 2023, we are the tuakana. So we've got a responsibility and an obligation to everybody within this region and within Here-Taunga-Rarau-te-Wairua. We, as the tuakana, whatever we do and whatever it takes, it must accept all those things around the obligations that we have to our tīna. And all these people are our tīna, all these people messing it up. messing it up in the region, messing it up in the space, messing it up also within settlements. And even though we're tūākana, we have to tread very carefully and very cautiously and make sure of every step and every moment that we take up in that, because it's so very, very important for us to get things right as we move forward towards settlements and as we go. But just a little more, I guess, to add to the ex-whānau kōrero there. Pretty clear there. Things are pretty clear. Not really necessary to go into any more, except, they're still keeping up the same old thing. Lots of lies being told. Control over my whānau, my kids, my mokos and stuff like that has been going down for quite some time now. They need that. I mean, it's obvious the ex-whānau will do things like that. Why? Because they need to keep us from bringing in the police over the things that they've done to my kids in the past, leading up to the times that we started to consider in 2012 the whakatapu. But we held the idea, but held it back, and we finally took that up in November 2021 and then set it right across both regions. Because, look, all sorts of abuse, threats, violence, and, all sorts of insults and threats to the survival of our taonga tuku iho and the survival of Tahumaakaakanuimatua, Hapu nui tonu uretārewa, within the region. So, both regions, actually. So, we had to lay the whakatapu, an element of law, and justice that we are obligated to. It's our responsibility to lay elements of law like that and make sure that people comply to those, because should we have to turn that up, and I just want to mention that because that's coming up in the update where we may need to turn that up if other groups in Wairarapa-ki-Tararua-o-te-Mataua Māui decide not to listen to us. Any of the demands that we have as a result of the illegalities within areas of their settlements. If they don't reverse those and hand those back to us, we are going to be turning their whakatapu up, because there would be an element of non-compliance to what the settlements entails, and non-compliance to what the requirements entail around the whakatapu, and of which gave us reason to lay the whakatapu in the first place. Okay, and that whakatapu was laid. The main reasons are protective over every taonga tuku iho. That includes our mokopuna, our tamariki, all our people, all totally protected right through. Our maunga, our awa, our wautu, everything, all protected solidly. And if we have to turn that right up to full power, that spells danger for kahunu rangitane, considering still to be non-compliant to the demands of the whakatapu and the atuatuatanga. You have to remember there are atuatuatanga involved with any whakatapu, and it's very, very dangerous to not comply with the demands of that particular element of law, element of the restoration of justice. An element like that always looks to restore justice in any way it can, in any way necessary and available. So that's that part of things, and if that goes up, that spells danger for these groups, but only in Wairarapa-Tararua. We won't be doing that in Hawke's Bay, Wairoa, obviously. If we do, it'll be only in Wairarapa-Tararua. Right, and it'll go right across the region. Okay, it'll go right across the region. So, look, quite a fair bit there, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, a little bit more about the ex-whānau, and also a lot more there around the politics, the political status of things at the moment, the political of things, and also e tātou mā te ReoHapu, a little bit more on te ReoHapu. People have been asking a little bit more on it. But yeah, apologies e tātou mā, we're having to hold back at the moment the public use of that ReoHapu. We were starting to slowly release it, but we'll hold up from here, from where we are. Everything else is fine. It's such a wonderful reo to use. I actually really like it. And because it's so tūturu, you can't get any reo more tūturu than that one. Yeah, but I'll talk about that when we come to it after the update. Yeah, and so today we will finish off with TeTiriti 1840 and the case against the Crown revolved around the fraudulent use of TeTiriti in order to be able to get themselves in a position, the New Zealand Crown, to assume sovereignty over the country. Yeah, okay, it was taken over the country in order to secure it to Great Britain. But in actual fact, what happened was they secured it to the New Zealand Crown. I mean, it was the New Zealand Crown became an authoritarian dictatorship over the entirety of the country. Okay, so yeah, we have some very interesting detail and news to share around that. However, e tātou mā, on to the update, the settlements where, look, we need to basically, whilst we're awaiting the current round of settlements to bring forward our deal, to bring forward also our talks with the Crown, and then see us going into the actual procedures of settlement and into the negotiations around the settlement deal for Wairarapa for us. We have been looking beyond that and looking at the nature and the character and detail amidst some of the settlements in Wairarapa already taken out. And so what we want to do is firstly have a look at a lot of the particulars around those areas in their settlements and just check them out. If we find that there's much indiscrepancy, as you know, to the degree that we thought, and that we, in other words, are able to collate enough evidence to trigger investigation, we will urge the investigation via the police to move forward and do that. Should they uncover much more and more in detail to highlight all of the areas of those illegal settlements, we shall be taking those two groups to court. Now, the thing with those, where it comes to settlements, by rights, they shouldn't affect our settlements, because that only affects their settlements, doesn't affect ours. So it's nothing to do with ours. We have a bit to do with the TeTiriti fraudulence of the Crown to talk around a bit later on. But yeah, there may be, in some cases, we need to talk with our contacts and associates of the Crown, I guess, around that and discuss the matters also with our lawyer. Some of the other lawyers that we wish to pursue in these cases may be able to shed a lot more light on that, on whether directly these particular cases will affect our settlements. We're hoping that they don't. If they do, we'll hold them up for later on. If they don't, we'll be moving forward, especially with the one, the TeTiriti one. But we don't think, in fact, that, and we think quite emphatically that that is the case, that cases, if we need to take them out through the courts, cases against the other groups that have settled urgently and snappily of late in Wairarapa, if we take those to court, they shouldn't affect our settlements, but in fact only theirs. And so, e tātou mā, moving on from there in the update around settlements, yes, we're still awaiting call-ups to talks, etc., but we're still quite relaxed. We're very relaxed around everything, minding the simple fact that the status of play is the way that it is, and that we need to be ready at all times, working, of course, through our maihi, through our foundational strategies and all that sort of thing, and also with our strategic plan in place, something that we're just getting around to finishing as well. We're also getting around to finishing our amended statement of claim. I shall bring that in to share with us in good time. And so a lot of that particular amended statement of claim, we will probably put it in likely this Friday or yeah, probably this Friday coming, and we will submit that to the tribunal. But at some point we will get to share it with you, the amended statement of claim and the state of it at the moment, the character of it at the moment. And in its current form, it's probably looking more like a final now. Okay, it hasn't ever looked anywhere near like a final, and we never tried to make it. We never tried to make it look like that because it was always very much a work in progress. A very on-to-it claim, a very clear claim, and a very detailed and a very in-depth claim that has been researched and always has been researched very, very well and very, very highly researched internationally, nationally, and locally and regionally. But we've always left the actual amended statement of claim to look like something like a third or fourth draft, I guess, of the original. However, now in the state that it's in now, it's probably a lot closer to the final actual amended statement of claim. So you'll be interested in that. And that's all part of the update that I bring you today. Future updates will revolve around also the amended statement of claim. Everything is involved in that. And we can actually count on that. That particular amended statement of claim to add everything to that. So all these cases, the case of TeTiriti 1840 and the fraudulence of the Crown, it's all within our amended statement of claim. So if the actual cases that we're looking at the moment do affect our settlements, we'd have to back off them. And if we do, we'll leave them as cases within our statement of claim only, and leave them at that. And that's why we added them all to that, to the amended statement of claim, just in case what we were doing was not going to work and was going to end up adversely affecting our settlements. So, but looking forward to that. Moving on from the settlements update now, though, and into the ReoHapu. I love using the ReoHapu. It's just not a reo you can use a lot of the time. If you don't have a lot of people around, and there aren't. I usually around locally don't have a lot of people around that can speak in that reo. So a lot of the things I do normally, culturally, spiritually, artistically, or whatever, I will sometimes utilize that reo within those things if I do them on a personal level or on an independent or local, or individual level. Nevertheless, it is a reo that is very much geared around the perfection of interrelations as well. I mean, because you can't, with a reo like this. This is one of those reo. I remember in Kōrero, on Te Kai Waiwai Kōrero, one of our shows through RFM, radio and TV, that screens on television, Wairarapa television now and again. The Kai Waiwai Kōrero, on that program, when we talked about the reo, we talked about the reo being a reo that is written in law, and that the word of mouth became law. And that if you utilize that particular taonga, because that's a taonga, your reo is a taonga, and the actual word of mouth of the person, if you were to lie using that, that would be a break in the law. Very, simply quite. There seems a lot of in-depth sensitivity within the, when you look at it, within the differences between the law and order of our Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and of course modern law, legalistics and stuff like that. They don't look at those sorts of things as important. But when you look at those regards, the types of seniorities that you might have, or the types of chiefships that you might have, or the taiopuru. Look, you need such laws, because anybody can trample those people. Aroha mai, left, right and centre, and would do so, unless we had a reo like that, or that the reo was treated like that. Okay, every reo is utilised like that, but this reo in particular, of all the reo, for it to work properly, it needs to be utilised in that way, and that the reo hapu of a hapu nui tonu na tārewa needs to be kept to lawful conduct, lawful operation, lawful use, and the ways of utilising such a reo kept to so rigidly that not so legalistically or religiously, but in a way that what needs to be seen through a reo like this is the ability to conduct perfect interrelations. Okay, because you can only be authentic. You can't boast. You can have fun. You can't boast. You can't lie. All those sorts of things. This is why I like this sort of reo, because you can get some real meaningful conversations all the time. And you get some real deep and detailed stuff come through, and personal, and it's matatapu. It's all those sorts of things. And this is why this is the type of reo to utilize with the PaeperaKoroutu. See? Do you see that? Because what the Lord brings us through the PaeperaKoroutu, what he brings us through the Bible, is an actual fact. Exactly that. An authentic relationship and interrelations based on authenticity, based on rock-solid loyalty, no corruption, no cheating or stealing or lying or tāhai, anything like that, fraudulence, nothing whatsoever like that is a part of any type of relationship of any sort. matatapu katoa, you know, personalized, confidential. It's the reo of whānau. If you can imagine, people in a hapu nui tonu te tārewa need to be working almost in complete unison. Hey. They need to be working instrumentally. Hey, you can you see that? And that's what this sort of reo is like. It protects you. This reo is like a shield. It is the reo known as the actual ReoHapu of the iwi. Okay, and what we've started sharing with you, but we have to hold up now, using publicly at the moment, is the ReoHapu of Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Hapu nui tonu ure tā rewa. Okay? And so, it's a reo of loyalty. So all those things that you do in this reo is based around matatapu and based around, you know, he reo pakeke, he reo Korua, he reo kaumātua, okay? And so the tamariki, well, most of the time they could not understand this reo, because this isn't the reo that you use with tamariki. The reo with tamariki is te reo matua, the universal reo. That's the reo you use with tamariki. And you would probably become so fluent in this particular reo, the ReoHapu, by around about the ages of 25 plus. 25, 26 plus in age, or between 21, 25, 26 plus. And that's the nature of this particular reo. Keeps confidentiality. It's a protective. It's also, it's the reo of the warrior, because I'll tell you why. It keeps you working so rock solid together in unity. You know, work within relationships, you know, based on tikanga and kawa. And it's a particular reo that's kept matatapu, confidential and private. That keeps take, that keeps kōrero confidential and private between you and others. It's the reo of whānau. Okay? It's the reo of whānau. It's part of the reo pōkere, or reo ao pōkere. We call that ao pōkere. And it's the reo that keeps our reo, keeps our kaupapa kōrero confidential, but interrelational. It keeps us tight as an iwi unit. It keeps us tight as a hapu all the time. You know, this is the reo on a daily basis that was spoken around everywhere by the pakeke all the time. Okay? Tamariki got to hear that reo, but it wasn't usual for them to speak during times of that reo, because most of the time they didn't. And also most of the time they didn't understand it anyway. But they knew that anything that they could understand, well, which would be quite, that would be quite a challenging thing for any of the kids, where they would be only highly fluent within the reo matua. Okay, which is totally different. But as you get older with te reo matua and you go up the levels, into ReoHapu and then into ReoHapu, you actually start to realize very, very quickly that you're on the road to knowing the ReoHapu as you go through the levels. So it's not until you get to then, and you're probably about 18 years of age by then, between 16 and 18 years of age by then, before you get to those levels. There are some few children, especially rangatira children or ariki, all those sorts of children that can get through a lot earlier. But usually it's the case where ReoHapu is held up to a certain age, and you don't usually utilise that except for around pakeke, korua, kuia, taipakeke, kaumatua, pahake, all those, all those sorts of people, pahake, and all the time. So the everyday reo was not the reo matua, but this reo. The reo used culturally and super tribally, universally from right throughout communities and right throughout pā and right throughout rohe was of course the reo matua. However, if you went amongst the actual iwi people, amongst the pakeke, kuia, korua, kaumatua and pāhake, what you would hear is te reo hapu, which is unrecognisable. He reo HawhauaoMo, and he reo tino hapu, tino whānau, tino e ki ana e tūhoi, mate a one. But when it comes to certain things like that, mate a one, we don't usually apply that in Tahumaakaakanuimatua unless we've got the basis for relations on the same level. We have to have authentic relations, because reo hapu cannot work through mate a one unless you have the basis for, same level relations or, authentic relationships, and the privacy respected, due respect to each party's interrelational basis and foundations rock solid. If you don't have those things, which, if Tūhoe thinks we've all got that with Tūhoe, that's wrong, because Tūhoe wouldn't know. But a lot of the basis of things is missing. And that's sort of how ambitious the Tūhoe can be. That's the Tūhoe of the Urewera. They think that we can be mate a one straight away in this day. We think not. We think that's incorrect and inaccurate of Tūhoe to say. Why? Because the basis of authenticity of relations is not there between tribes. If they have a good look over the last 15 years, that's the case of how it's been between, like, for instance, us and them, us and kahunu rangitane and them. The interrelations have been terrible. You can never be mate aone ki tētahi right through in a situation like that. So, but then again, we've never had that anyway. So it's never truly mate aone. So, and this is the sort of reo for that sort of thing. But you have to have the basis of authenticity first and the foundations laid before a reo like that, or te mate aone ki tētahi to be fully effective and successful. Okay, so there we have a little bit more on the reo hapu as questioned there by some of those people that we've reached over the weeks. Faith, trust, loyalty, commitment, all meeting obligations, authenticity, telling the truth, not lying, honesty, correctness, accuracy, when things are wrong, accepting that, politeness, respect, due respect, all those sorts of things. So, we need to understand that the basis of all these types of things, if they're not established first, then a reo like this cannot work. Te mate aone ki tētahi cannot work. And therefore such a reo as reo hapu cannot work either. But we have that basis within Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and we're pretty certain of that. We know there are tribes that like to try and disrupt things like that and do all sorts of things to try and disrupt the growth and development of iwi, such as ours, Tahumaakaakanuimatua, but they have failed miserably. Now, I'm just going to go back briefly to the update because I had forgotten some things now. In relation to that, some of the things that have been done to us in the past across to affect our settlements and claims across the past, e tatauma. I have to bring those up again within the update, and the reason for that is because the state of play within the politics of things, which is coming up next anyway, within the politics of things, e tatauma. See, this is the state of play. Largely, kahungunurangi tāne. Even though, we're the only only group that can evidence fully the primacy and the preeminence and the prominence of our iwi, and the simple fact that we have iwi structure, we have uretārewa, we have 12 uretārewa, we have population, even those types of things. The population, the true population of Kahungunu and Wairarapa is actually around about 4,000, and the true population of Rangitane. So you have to remember, if I speak out against some of their claims, the reason I'm saying that is because to the degree that you understand their claims or settlements, you probably overstate them, in terms that you overstate them based on population numbers that are quite different to the way we see them, which are based on numbers a lot smaller. And for Rangitane, they only have about 400 to 500 people. There are not many Rangitane in Wairarapa. The huge majority are Tahumaakaakanuimatua. And like I said before, we claim 18,000. Okay? That's all together, we claim 18,000. And that includes the huge majority of Rangitane. And when you look at them being 400, 500, there's not many left. A few thousand after that, a few hundred after, a couple of hundred after that. Okay? And then when you look at Kahungunu, being 4,000, there's not many left after that. So, look, e tatauma, they get to a point where, because we can prove all these things, we even prove their original line ancestry descent. We have all the evidence of that from us. Like for Kahungunu, from the 16th line of the Waitaha rangi, from Tamatea Ariki Nui through Korotai Matsua and Teira Manawa Piko, his wife. And then from Rongokako Matsua, there came Tamatea Nui, Tamatea Roa, Tamatea Maita Whiti, and then Tamatea Ariki Nui. Now, 16 lines from there we get Kahungunu. Okay, 4th line from his line. Look, no chance of that being Uretārewa. So, e tatauma, we have to ensure that though that they do get to go under their Uretārewa, which is the Waitaha rangi Hapu Uretārewa I'm talking about. And so that, and that's what I mean by standard, by the way. Of course, there's no real standard way of putting that, but you would say, Waitaha rangi Hapu first. You would say Hapu first, and that's why I said standard, because that's the usual thing, to mention the Hapu first, whereas I had them round the other way before, which was not so standard Aokohatsu fashion of determining and talking around the terms of the complexities and details of consistencies of tribal groups. Okay, so firstly comes the hapu. Okay, even if they're not a hapu, it's obvious they have no ure tārewa, so they're an uri. Within Tahumaakaakanuimatua, that happens to be the case, and so that's what we call that an uri. Okay, which are groups and groups of whānau, generations of whānau together that are formulated in uri. They still can have ariki lineages, they still can have rangatira, they still can have tohunga, but because they have no ure tārewa, they're not a hapu. Okay? And so we have all those different degrees of things. And look, what we are looking over at the moment is to the degree at which, I mean, because we had that mostly over the last 14 to 15 years. We had kahunu rangitane continuing to overclaim right throughout Wairarapa to the entirety, even though, you know, most of the claims were quite highly and well proven by us copiously, that most of the claims were not theirs. It's the same in TakeTaunaha, and it's obvious because we are the rightful possessors, the mana whenua of the entirety of Hawke's Bay Wairua. It's probably a lot, well, it is definitely a lot worse in TakeTaunaha Wairua. But what we've been looking at and comparing things around and having a good examine of things around the actual degree to which groups in Wairarapa are those who were either or part of kahunu or rangitane in the past, but now have splintered off and divided into 4 different groups. We're wondering to what degree that they are still doing that. Okay? And this is the politics of things. I'm now going to move into that as well as explain what I'm explaining around these matters to do with the politics of things, but also to do with the update around settlements. And that is that, e tatou mā, what they've tended to do right through, I know that things have changed quite considerably since the last reading of the settlement bill for Wairarapa, but nothing's sort of come through yet, nothing sort of materialised from there. All we're getting in this is this continuation of urgent settlements for some of these other groups. Now, what we can make of some of those, as I said at the beginning of this kōrero, is that some of those are actually majoritarily inaccurate and therefore illegal, and therefore, as they claim across Tahumaakaakanuimatua lands, this means that we have to stand up again and file lawsuits against them. We need to push the investigation forward against them. Now, should we get non-compliance of the whakatapu, then we're going to turn that up, right up. And so kahunu rangitane are going to be in a lot of danger should we get to that point. However, tātou mā, the politics of these things is around the simple fact that, and it's how the kahunu rangitane have been able to utilise the crown in the past. Like in 2009 where they ran to the crown, they were able to tangiweto to the crown, get babied, and then the crown process and the overuse of sanctions has assisted them to carry on, which is what they've got now. Now, what I said last week to that, similar trajectories as that, e tatou mā, was that they're in the past they've defeated a lot of other groups through strategies like that, through the use of the crown and the crown powers of sanction and all that sort of thing, and the process around that to beat other groups, but that they will not be able to beat us from this point. That's what I said last week, and I'm not lying to you. And this is why I'm explaining this part here, because we've been looking hard, examining hard the degree to which the kahungunu the divides of them that have splintered off now are still utilising that facility available to them as LNG. Now, we know that they said the certain things that they said at the final reading, but has anything materialised? We've heard nothing since. Okay? And in all our talks with the Crown, we've heard nothing to materialise any of that yet. So we need to get to that point. We need to quickly get to settlement point as well. That's one of the things that we need in order to, because it holds up a lot of our work. That's what this does. It holds up a lot of our work. Settlements doesn't mean necessarily just a whole lot of money to us, or lands, or both, which is what we will be resolving to. It means a whole lot more work to us, a whole raft of things. And so much has been held up so far, but the good thing about it is that we'll be able to get through a lot of that. Okay? And grow to our potential and work to our potential, because we've got so much more potential than the other groups. The other groups, all they've done is rely on the Crown, and that's it. That's all they've got. They've got nothing else. And we've got so much else. They've had the Tutura, and the Tutura haven't done any good for them. They've had other groups, I guess, and these other groups haven't really done that much for them either. But, if we think about this, if we have brought forward in the space all the evidence, everything that we claim is justified and proven, and they can't, and neither can the Crown. Years ago, they should not have been allowed to go forward as they did, and these groups should not have been allowed to either settle. That's the sort of argument that we're bringing through to these groups at present. We're saying that they should not have been allowed to settle yet. Okay, these groups should not, like for Rangitane, they should not have been allowed to settle yet until we got to check every little detail of every little settlement. Okay, and the reason being is because what we've made of those settlements so far is that the huge majority are Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Okay? See, and these are the sorts of troubles we always foresee things like this. We always know things like this are on the horizon. Why? Because we know the nature and character of the groups that we're dealing with so very well. And we know the nature and character of their claims, the detail, etc., 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 and what they're based on and who's carried them out, etc., 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 and the sorts of findings, why. Their whole strategies and their written pieces, etc. We luckily, foundationally, we're so very, very, very strong, and this is how we keep coming out way over and above everybody else. If we look at it, though, there seems to be a lot of compromises that have been made by the Crown and also by Kahunu Rangitane, which is great to see. But nothing's materialising greatly yet. All we've got still is this mad rush for the other groups who are the opposition and who are the more junior of the space to get their settlements done, and the Crown babying them again and allowing them to do that. Now, that's not right. That's not right. Okay? Because these are groups that still claim that they're the iwi. These are the groups that still claim that they are the rightful owners of this region. Or do they not? Or, because nothing's materialised out of what came out of the end of last year in the House of Representatives. We haven't seen anything. Nothing's been done. No one's come to us. And the Crown hasn't talked to us around the settlement that we're about to enter into. Okay? And still the Crown, kahunu, rangitane, cannot prove all these things. Hopefully, what was decided and discussed around the bill in the House of Representatives at the end of last year explains everything, and everything materialises soon, because without that, we can't really move forward too well in anything. And these are some of the strategies that we have largely disliked, the strategies of the opposition and the Crown. Mainly coming from the Tūhoe. They're the sort of group that likes to hold up others and try and make out that they're better off than anybody else, and they're not. They've actually just got lots of karakia which can make things advantageous for you, but they're not the winning way. Okay? They're not the winning way. And the problem with Tūhoe is that they think they own everything and the winning way as well, just because they've got the karakia. You don't need the power of the karakia to get anywhere. Traditionally or non-traditionally, you don't need the power of the karakia to get anywhere. So the Tūhoe need to back off such notions as that, or operating in the country with such false confidence and a sense of false security. Okay, and so that's the state of play politically. E Tahumaakaakanuimatua, where in the past they've been able to claim all these things around the region wrongfully. And so we're looking at to what degree, scrupulously examining to what degree are they still claiming in that same fashion? Are they taking that into the settlements? Are they taking that that degree of how they look at things now into their settlements, up and coming settlements, because what we would like to see is them whittled right back. They need to be. Because if Kahuna only has around about 4,000 in this region, their settlements, by rights, should be a lot less than what we think that they're claiming that their settlements are. They are one small part. One small part, remember. There are only 20,000, 21,000 in the motu, legally, officially. Or should I say, rather, legally. Because that's their rightful numbers under the Crown. See, and this is what's wrong with the political, and this is why we're talking around the political, because the Crown, even though this is the status of play for them, they're still able to, through the Crown, who allows them to get away still with such claims, with such settlements, or still aiming to get what they want, so that it looks publicly like they were right all along, whereas they're not. They were always wrong. They just needed us to tell them so, show them so, give them the reasons why, and give them the full Monty in terms of the evidence that backs all of that up. See, even the evidence against the grand narrative, we've supplied all of that. See? But even so, they've been still going forward. Now, that's not right. The Crown should not be allowed to be doing that. And we want to talk to the Crown about things like that. Because even though these are the wrongful groups, we've already proven that they're not iwi, okay? They're not hapu nui tonu te tārewa. They're the most junior, they're not of preeminence. They're not of primacy. Aroha mai. Just getting a little coffee at the same time. They're not of primacy, they're not of prominence in the region. Neither do they have the evidence of everything they claim. Eta tauma. Eta. So look, if we have a good look at things, by rights they should be getting held up. And that's what we want to ask the Crown is why haven't they held it? Why do they keep babying these groups, even though it's copiously proven that they're not the rightful groups? Why are they continuing to do that? Is it because the first priority to the Crown is what they can get out of this as well? Because according to us, all that matters to these other groups and all that has ever mattered is largely just the finance or what they can get monetarily from this whole process. That's how it's looked, and that's honestly how we've seen them. You know, that's all that they've cared about, because anything traditional, anything customary, anything truly based around the people, truly based around the whānau, truly based around the tamariki mokopuna, everything traditional, they have never cared about, worried about, operated within, or worked within, or had any authentic and true respect for right throughout the whole of this process. All they've cared about is the non-customary ways in which the process dealt with us. The non-customary ways in which, and the illegal ways and the corrupt ways and the sanctioning ways of the Crown. And that's all they've really cared about. So, you know, that's not care for the people. That's not care for the tamariki mokopuna. All that is care for the financial gains. That's all that is care about. And what you can get out of the Crown. I mean, look, it's disgraceful. It's disgraceful, but that's the level of arrogance within the process of the Crown and the actual state of play and the political status of things within the process at the moment. Okay? So we're hoping that the Crown, as soon as we do get to talk more to them, that they will look to hold up things for these junior groups for a start. Because when we settle, we're going to be settling right across Wairarapa regardless. Because it doesn't matter. Every group right across Wairarapa is Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and that proves it. We are the seniorship. We are not splinter, a group with splinter groups or divisions who are divided off, etc., etc., etc. That's not how iwi or hapu nui tonu te tālewa operate. We are all one group. So they are, by rights, realistically, lawfully, and legally Tahumaakaakanuimatua, no matter how they want to look at it. Okay, we have some of the talks we want to have with Wairarapa Moana based around Ngai Tahu Hapu, which is a made-up name from the Carrington text of the Tahu Pōtiki Uri. Okay, that's a made-up name because there's no such tribe as Ngai Tahu Hapu. Okay, and so Wairarapa Moana utilised that name to utilise as a name for all of the Tahumaakaakanuimatua Uri still stuck under them. Okay? And these are some of the elements that are the elements of the political state of play and the corruption, the level of corruption that goes along with that political state of play of the process at the moment, revolved around the kahunu rangitane and the Crown. Okay? And that is based around, I mentioned it briefly last week, and people have asked about it, the element of, the aspect of, and the concept of population. Okay? That is how they were able, over the last 14 years, 15 years, to utilise the Crown process in order to get control of status quo, I mean, I did mention status quo last week, but I didn't mention as an element of control for them, because they largely didn't have that control. They largely didn't have that control, especially between 2015 and 2017 roundabouts. Largely, we had taken that control. Okay, they lost the status quo, really, because, and that's why most of the people nowadays actually follow us. So we haven't got too much to moan about or complain about, really. But however, what I want to do is continue to examine around and discuss around all those different areas and elements of the state of the political state of play. Why? Because things are not materializing yet. Okay? Until they do, then we'll stop examining around and talking around these particular issues in the space. Okay? The thing is, issues like this still exist, and so we've got to deal with them whilst they're there. Okay, and we're a group that as soon as we've got issues or challenges, we deal with them immediately. And so we're not going to wait around for the Crown and settlement, etc., and not deal with these things as they face us or challenge us in the interim. So look, when it comes to population, a number of our people in 2009 were stuck under the kahunu. Let me give you this scenario. They were stuck under the kahunu and rangitane. Around about 10,000 of us under the rangitane, and around about 31,000. Now, we gave them all the proof that all those people actually belong to us. Okay, we asked them to respect their proof, and they were not allowed to utilize that proof. And as soon as they see that we're telling the truth, and we're very, very accurate about that, we would like to see those returned. But not only that, we wanted to unite with them. Okay? Now, they didn't actually see that actually the main part of that quarter, or they saw it as an ultimatum too, and a challenge to them, and they also saw it as, I guess, our way of kicking them in the bum. But you know what? Embarrassingly, they thought that, but we did make that the priority, that the unity was the priority over everything. That if we didn't get the rest, that the unity would be a great start for us anyway. Okay, but we wanted the rest because rightfully all those rangatira ancestries and uri, hapu, they were all ours. Okay, and we rightfully wanted them back. We explained that we had been through all their reo, all their tikanga practices, their tika, their kawa, all their wenua, all of their taunahanaha even, their tupuna, right back into Raiatea Tahiti. The relationship with Rarotonga, and why sometimes we're confused to be Rarotongans, which in actual fact is not true. Look, lots of different reasons for all those different things. However, what I wish to point out is that in terms of the population, before 2009, they still had wrongful control of those. What should happen, rightfully, is that all of those ancestors should be given back to us. It's a part of the reason, a part of the entirety of the reasons for the whakatapu. That's one of the main things. 41,000 of our ancestries are still being held by them wrongfully. But this is what the Crown process can do. It can help these other groups, largely, that even though it is illegal for them to still hold on to those uri ancestors, and even though they've managed to control those uri ancestries so much that even they were in support of those. Right now, where we stand is in quite a different space. And most of those ancestries, actually, in actual fact, they disagree. Okay? And so, politically, that's wrong. Okay, that's unlawful. That is corrupt as well. Because what they're doing is they're utilizing a crown process that is operating illegally, sanctioning and over-sanctioning though, but also from a position that is wrongful in the first place. What they're saying is that legally anything under the kahunu o rangitane where those ancestries are at the moment is legal that they go for. Like, for instance, the mandate in 2012. And like, for instance, a lot of what they've done since around population, how they claim 12,000 in Wairarapa. Nonsense. Meho katoa tēnā kōrero katoa. Arakau I te tekau mā rua manu tā tangata nā tau. Ki roto Wairarapa Tararua. Harakau. Ka hure kau e tā taumā. So, if you look truly through all those ancestries, you will find arakau rātau I te uria kahune. Okay, te nuinga o Tahumaakaakanuimatua. O Tahumaakaakanuimatua te katoa. Te nuinga. And then when you look at it in every way possible anyway, in any way likely anyway, they're all Tahumaakaakanuimatua at the end of the day anyway. Okay, and we have always been the legal grouping, representative of all Tahumaakaakanuimatua ancestries. And this is the gripe that we have with Wairarapa Moana, that if they're going to use the Ngai Tahu Hapu term to reinterpret our Uri ancestries, they've got a big fight on their hands. They've got a big fight on their hands. Because in actual fact, the use of a false and flawed and made up name like that to describe our Uri, our ancestries, that quite rightfully we can show the whakapapa. They cannot do that through the Carrington text. They are incorrect whakapapa, those whakapapa, and they will not be able to utilize our whakapapa to correct them from the Carrington text. We have copies of the Carrington text, and we can prove that that is where they got all this kōrero from. And the actual state and linear the lines of ancestry shown within the Carrington text. Now, if they've followed that one, then their interpretation and their line of the ancestries that they're trying to take from us under Ngai Tahu Hapu as the term for the Hapu from where they belong, because that is highly inaccurate and incorrect, they will need to back off that, because we'll take them to court straight away on that. Okay, we'll take them to court straight away on that. Their tuturu iwi, their tuturu hapu nui tonu is Tahumaakaakanuimatua. Okay? And they will need to be very, very careful of what they do, if indeed that's what they're up to. But this is how they can utilize things politically within their crown. See, it's a crown-operated, crown-run thing for them. They don't operate on tuturu values. They don't operate on tuturu customary law. They don't, all those sorts of things are what we operate on. And we think that's what the people have come to appreciate about us, is that everything is tuturu about us. We don't make up things like Ngai Tahu Hapu, like Wairarapa Moana has. We don't make up stories like the kahunu rangitane have over the years, and also as the like my ex-whānau has done. There's some of the reasons, I won't go back to them. Or they're made up stories. They can shove it. They can shove everything. I would bet that that ex-whānau, you know, if I did go back, they'd take that as a way that, oh yeah, they can do whatever they want now. Even if they did the same thing, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, there's no way I'm going to trust the whānau like that. Not all the whānau, but I'm talking about the ones who run that whānau. They can, you know, they can get stuffed. There's no way I'll go back into an environment like that. But to do anything through me or to get my help or support, they'll need to come on our grounds, meet on our grounds, on our turf, and discard the foundations of their turf, which is totally corrupt, totally mob, totally tūhoi, and this I can't stand. I can't stand the sorts of grounds upon which they operate. It's disgusting. Because all of it's corrupt. Kahungunu that they operate on is corrupt. Everything that they're based on is corrupt. And that is why e TakeTaunaha, you know, which means none of their kōrero is true or factual or proven. And that is why e TakeTaunaha keep on saying to the eldest ones in that ex-whānau, kaore, don't kawarai huri ke mai kia hau kōrero ai. Kawarai huri ke mai rā iau whiriwhiri take ai. Ai te mea nā hoki eta. You know? Ki hau tonu hoki. Ki hau tonu hoki. Rū kahu tonu hoki anō te āhua o te kōrero e nā tāngata. Kua tino kore nei āhau hoki atu ai kia rātau. Huri ke atu ai kia rātau kōrero ai whiriwhiri take katoa anō ai. Ki roto kia rātau. Karekau. Karekau. Okay, and that's, yeah, my personal feelings. Nothing wrong with reconciliations, nothing wrong with anything like that, or forgiveness, nothing wrong with anything like that. But to return to a whānau like that, karekau. Karekau, I'd never return to an environment like that. And I think many of the others of the whānau also feel like that. Unless they're new leaders within the whānau can do something with the whānau. My wisdom and advice around a situation and the situation like that, where it is situated at the moment, the actual situation is that they would need to deal with me or deal with us on our grounds. There's no way I'm coming into those grounds. There's no way I like those grounds. I ain't afraid, but it's not simply a case of fear or anything like that. It's simply a case of which way of doing things I accept, and I don't accept their way of doing things. I think their way of doing things is flawed, and if they want a war, you know, we can go there straight away. I'd rather not piss around about that. See, and I know for a fact they don't want a war. What they want is to get you into a position where they can tower over you. See, that's what they're really up to. See, and that's what they're not going to get. They're not going to get a position like that from me. See, because where I've come to now, the status of my personal life now at the moment, and our iwi, nah. We see, because I've discussed this with our iwi, and we actually see a move like that as a step back from the growth that we've had about 27 years. That would be a step backward. See? And that's most of the advancement that we've made and that I've made has been through times when I've worked outside of the whānau. See? Why? Because whilst I was in there, everyone kept towering over me, those that were running the show, and actually doing all their crap behind my back. See? Now, I think now they're in a position, they're so angry where they actually want to confront me head on. Well, that's not going to worry me. They can confront me head on all they like. They'll still give me stand up and go against them, go 1-1, go 1-10. I don't care. I'll take them on. But the thing is with me is that if your way of doing things isn't right and it isn't the best way of doing things, then I won't be, following your way. So the best way for us in dealing with things, where this ex-whānau is concerned, that's my advice. Come onto my grounds, onto my turf, and we'll talk there. Nowhere else. And they need to remember I'm tuakana now. I'm tuakana. And they forfeit that. They forfeit the right to that. All their corrupted state of doing things in the past for the sake of kahungunu and the mob that they've worked at hasn't worked, but it's still the way that they wanted to go. And they did all of their abuse and threats and bullying and all that sort of stuff that they did in the background. They did all of that to forfeit their tuakana status. So that's gone now. And in fact, that whole line forfeited that. Okay, I hold that now. That's mine. Okay, and that's Tahumaakaakanuimatua, tikana, tika, and kawa. And that's the way it is. That's the way it is, and I won't be going back on that, and neither will our iwi be going back on that. So that's the final conclusions on the ex-whānau. That's how they'll need to see things like that. And if they don't like it, oh well, yeah. And if they don't like how things run under Tahumaakaakanuimatua in our lands, I could say for them, they're quite free to move up to WhakataungaKereeme. But then again, WhakataungaKereeme is just as Tahumaakaakanuimatua as it is here. See, so they need to be careful there in WhakataungaKereeme as well. Okay? They have to be very, very careful. Now, back to the political state of play. Now, see, this is how they use the Crown's sanctioning power. Sanctioning power of the Crown is disgusting. That even though they cannot evidence all these things, they can still push forward and do all this stuff like population and hold on to that population, even though it's illegal. Hold on to those people, even though they are Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and still operate through those people. They might be saying they're in full support of kahungunu and the claims, only because, though, the Crown promises them as LNG settlement, blah, 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 and negotiated settlement, blah, blah, blah. But what they cannot do, what they cannot do is claim all of that through customary means. Neither can they do that through the evidence necessary to be able to do that, because they haven't got there. So do you see the political state of play? Disgusting, eh? It's quite shocking. It's quite shocking. Because, rightfully, we are the primary iwis. But, like I say, things haven't materialised yet, but it'll be good to see what comes after what was decided from under the House of Representatives last year, at the end of last year. But once things materialise, we'll relax a bit more. We go into those talks soon with the other groups in the region that have settled. We also will be looking hard at the case against the Crown and their fraudulent use of TeTiriti to be able to assume sovereignty 6 months later in our country. Aye, and that's a little bit more on the ex-whānau. But, that literally stinks, eh? It literally stinks that these tribes, we've outclassed them, the Crown even. The Crown even, we've totally outclassed them. We've totally evidenced everything for us, and we've evidenced everything beyond what they can evidence. Totally. And you know what? They're still pushing them forward and letting them settle. That's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting. And what that shows is that the Crown is up to only looking after itself at the end of the day. They don't care about things customary. They don't care about our tamariki mokopuna. They don't care about our people. If they did, they would care more and have more respect for authenticity and the truth and the facts and exactness and preciseness around the kōrero and te tika o te kōrero, te pono o te kōrero, te tātai kawa o te kōrero. They would care about all these things. So they're all talk, really, at the end of the day. They're all talk. They go around preaching, we care about the people. We got the money bags on our side. We've got the Crown. The Crown says the same thing. Kahunu rangitane say the same thing. All of a sudden they look like they're operating in unison for something that really is purposely for the people. But this is what I'm glad about, is that the people are not buying that anymore. Okay, this is what I'm glad about, and the majority are not buying that. But until things materialize, we won't get to see seriously the advantageousness or the correctness or the accuracy of what we've heard around discussions or what came out of discussions around that, around all of that. Customarily, the Crown, the Kahuna and Rangitane cannot use those populations in the way that they're doing, because under them, they're unlawfully under them. Okay, their whakapapa kōrero is Tahumaakaakanuimatua, and we have the evidence on all of te tikanga, metkawa, around all of those whakapapa and all of that whakapapa kōrero. Okay, so it's quite unlawful and therefore illegal, customarily, everything that they're using around those populations, etc. Okay, so if the rangitane are only around about 400 people, then by rights, when you look at the size of the lands, te tapere nui o whātonga, Pukaha and all those areas, Tāmaki nui Arua areas around there, we think, because they are the most junior in this region, that they've actually oversettled. They've actually oversettled. And the same with WhakataungaKereeme. They're an entity that we've never ever consented to. When, most of the land, all of their land is Tahumaakaakanuimatua. So they're another one that's oversettled. They're not even junior. They're nobodies. They're nobodies. Nothing but a business. Okay? An entity that, that handles people's finances and manages people's lands, employs trustees around, blah, 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 blah. They're not someone that we actually need. That's the Crown that has said that they're all fine around them being a part of the settlement process as an individual group. And that also holds lines of Tahumaakaakanuimatua under the false name of a tribal group. Supposedly, they're a tribal group, Ngai Tahu Hapu. Now, if that means that they're a Hapu, then where's the Ure Tārua? Okay? Where's the Ure Tārua? I guarantee you they haven't got one. Okay, that would say that they're only an uri, and that would also say that the name Ngai Tahu Hapu is definitely false and without foundation. So they've been able to manipulate e tātou mā, the population. They've been allowed to through the sanctioning powers and their corrupt ability and illegalities around, but, ruled across by sanction of the Crown. Okay, so even though those populations are Tutura, Tahumaakaakanuimatua, the Crown process has allowed them to manipulate and regulate the process around those ancestries still, and still be able to get what they want, which stinks. It literally, utterly stinks. Okay? But luckily, we've had the compromises that we've had since November 2021. Because without those compromises, there would be no hope. Without those compromises, there'd be just about all-out war in these regions. And I'm not joking to you, but we mean that, all-out war. And we know that we're probably closest to that point than we ever have been in our lives. So I don't know what the ex-whānau is going on about. Some of them, some of their junior cousins going around saying that Tahumaakaakanuimatua is scared. That's not true. We're not scared to do anything. There's no fear of mob. There's no fear of ex-whānau. No one's scared of the mob. There's nothing to be scared of anyway. What we don't like is the way they operate. They operate on falsification. They operate on that's more what we don't like. That's more what we don't like. They operate on lies. They base everything on falsification. They base everything on the corruption of the Crown and the sanctioning powers of the Crown. All of that is corrupt. It's fraudulence. And that is why I always look at those elder ones in that ex-whānau as kihau. They're your typical blowbags. They're blowbags. And then I'll say it again. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me if you're a blowbag. And I already know they're blowbags. And here they are wanting to talk to me. Well, why would a blowbag want to talk to me? You know, I'm never going to listen to them because a blowbag is not someone that should be in my presence. I can't stand blowbags. Okay, and that's the real reason. There's no fear at all. There's no fear at all. Otherwise, I'd be scared to go and reconcile. Otherwise, I'd be scared to go and share forgiveness with them. I don't mind sharing any of that. All my Christian life that I have now, I don't mind sharing any of that. And okay, deep down, right back into genealogical ties. Okay, we're still whānau, but things have changed majorly. The political landscape, the entirety of it has absolutely changed. Okay, and we are not about to go back on that. Because we're probably, if you have a good look at it, you know, okay, I've gone through a lot of corruption from the other side and the shocking state of the opposition and the Crown and the kahuna rangitane and the way that they've been operating. Their politics is disgusting. But then when you look at it from the other standpoint, from our standpoint, we're probably politically in the most powerful position we've ever been in since we've been in this space. Okay? All the last 27 years, we've fought very, very hard for this position, and we're not about to relinquish it in any way, shape, or form. We now have the political nous and power and authority that we've been looking for all along through this whole battle. But I'm not lying to you, but we're that far away from war in these regions. And if you ever thought that that was one of the reasons why the whakatapu was put across these two regions, you got that right. You got that right. Because the next step after that is, you know, only and could ever be war in these regions. But this is what the Crown does to us. This is how the process treats us. And what other type of resolution have we got left after the talks are said and done? And one group like the ex-whānau, one group as well like the mob, One group, like, whoever else there might be, that always wants to stay on the corrupt level of dealings, the corrupt level of the crown, the falsifications, the flaws, you name it, the lies that they want to continue to stay standing on. You know what? It's going to be an all-out war. But even that, in the throes of the politics, we do not think that you should go for that, because you stand to lose that as well. You'd be a lot better off using your political strategy to try and out-muscle us through the crown, which you will still lose, than go to war with us. Because I'll tell you why. I guarantee you lose. I guarantee you the mob people going around saying that we're scared change their minds after that. I bet the mob runs after that with their tails between their legs, and they never come back here. What's the bet? What's the bet? They're scared. What's the bet? They're scared after that. Okay? But that, politics. That's what it's like. It's an all-power play. But especially, what we've been highlighting for the opposition and these other groups is the extraordinary amount and the shocking amount of abuse of power in the way that they've been operating. And they've been doing that for years. Right back when we first started complaining about some of the abusive treatment of our kids, the threatening behaviour, the bullying. One of my kids, as I said before, was abused by one idiot for 10 years. He was bullied, threatened, beaten up for 10 years. All sorts of abusive stuff was done to him. And by rights, this fella should have been in jail. But we spared him. You know why? Because we knew times would be a lot harder for him outside of jail, and that has been the case. That has been the case for him. So it wasn't really a let-off for him. But the major reason for him that he should be punished for all of that was because he knew he was committing abuse. He knew that. See, and this is the silliness of the mob. The mob keeps saying they were pretending. They weren't pretending. And we know that. They were not pretending. Okay, they can say that till the cows come home or till they're blue in the face. The mob was not pretending throughout all those times. Okay? And we know they think they're smart. We'll see how smart they are when it comes to a real war. So I guarantee you, by the end of that real war, they go running with their tails between their legs out of the region, and they never come back. Okay? Now, such as politics can get your blood boiling, eh? Then you start getting me talking like that. Well, I don't mean to, but that's just the realism, the realist state of play. That is the authenticity about what I talk about. I don't, mince words. You get the real thing from me. You get the accuracy too. You get the preciseness too. You get the exactness too. And you get the facts and figures, everything you need. But kahunu rangitane or the crown, they cannot win from here. The strategy politically that they've always used cannot win anymore. And if we should go to war, we know we will continue to build on things, hence the talks with the other groups. Hopefully we get to talk a lot more and discuss around things and put together resolutions around some of the take that come up together around talks, because that will ease the potential of likely war in these two regions. Okay? But I tell you what, with that whakatapu right up on full power, I guarantee you the mob go running out of here. Because they'll realise they should never mess with Tahumaakaakanuimatua. They're just blowbags, really. The mob's just blowing. They're blowing. And, as people, some of these people, yeah, I had some respect for when I was growing up. But you might say I just about lost all that respect now. I just about lost all of that because even as mob, they've just, they've outdone themselves terribly in terms of, living on the corrupt side of life, the flawed side. Made up stories about me and all this sort of garbage. This is how they want to live on lies. Well, there's no need to include me or my whānau in anything like that. There's no way we're going to be a part of anything like that. And they can't suck me in. They might be able to suck in some other people of our whānau, like one of my brothers is horribly suckered in. And look where he's just about going to end up. Look where he's about to end up. Inside looking in. And then one of the elders, one of the eldest of the ex-whānau, they're just about on their way in too. Big long leg. Same with this other brother of mine, big long leg. Well, at least he should get that anyway. For the things he ended up doing. I'm not too happy about any of that sort of stuff, eh? Now, if that's the way they're going to operate, it's how these things came about. This is what I dislike. It's typical feudalist, tūhoe, mob crap that keeps going on in that whānau, and it'll keep going. It'll keep going. They blow us. And that's all they'll ever be as far as I'm concerned. And I ain't a part of no whānau like that. I don't come from a long line of blow asses. Okay? And if that's the way they want to be because they do, then that's their business. I feel sorry, though, for the rest of the whānau. I feel sorry, though, for the other possible leaders in their whānau. And there's a few. There's a couple of sisters I have in there. There's a number of nephews in there. There's even sometimes my whānau I know, visit them in there. That's how I know they've got more control over them than even I have. I don't even see them as much as they do. Okay, so, but just talking around all that sort of stuff, the politics, it's all politics, okay? But, when you're abusive of that thing called power, that's where things start falling down. And I don't like that. I don't like operating with people like that. So defeatist, so self-destructive, all that sort of thing. It's not the way to help people. If this is about whānau, if this is about tamariki, then surely we can't be operating on such ways of doing things. Feudalist, tūhoe, and idiotic ways of doing things. Rerekuri, koina nā, noi hora, te āhuatanga ki e nā tonu, tū āhuatanga, e kawe ake atu ana e nā tau, I ro te taua whānau. Even the mob, operating in that way. Disgusting. Shocking to have all that sort of stuff or to have to put up with any of that. Everything established on lies, corruption, deceit, and power abuse, the abuse of power that just, I can remember 20 years ago saying of those very same eldest people in their whānau, gosh, They teamed up with a whole pack of power mongers. Now they've all become power mongers, and look at their outcomes. Look at the consequences. The subsequent, I don't know if you can call it that, but the outcomes or the fruits of their labours. Look at all that crap. Look at it all. Look at the outcomes. That's all they've got for all their power abuse and power mongering. A whole lot of foundations of lies, deceit, corruption, cheating and stealing, and everything built on inaccuracies and blowbagging. And that's all they do all day, blowbag. Okay? And, of course, we've got plenty there on TeTiriti 1840 and how that was used to assume sovereignty in the country. And it was used to assume sovereignty in the country by way of process through the use of our reo. That's part of what we've used in the amended statement of claim. In the next couple of weeks, probably, we'll get to discuss things around that, around what's actually in the amended statement of claim, which is almost in its final drafting. So I can't wait to get that through to the tribunal and signed off. So at the moment, our Te Runanga Nui o Tahu has that, and we will be having a look at that together right through the week. And by this Friday, I would say be ready to send off to submit to the tribunal. But they utilised the reo, added and counted everything with added to it and counted everything with the English text later on that evening from the first signing. And that started the ball rolling. They were able to assume sovereignty as they gathered more and more signatures. By September of that same year, they had 540, and they thought, kua nui tēnā. Kua tino ki ngi tātau I te wenua nei, you know? And, that's what they thought. But they were in for a big fright. Because not only were we protesting at the agenda of pan-tribalism being taken around the country by Busby and the establishment of Busby in the country, not only were we protesting at Busby from 1833, but we've protested and warred against them and opposed them right up to 2023, right through to this very moment, and right into this time when we're talking around the case that we have against the Crown and TeTiriti, where we want to recommend the Crown stand down. Their authority and dictatorship in the country, it's all in the amended statement of claim, is closed down, and their partnership in TeTiriti is closed down, and it's handed back to the original partner to Westminster and the Crown, effectively King Charles in London, England, and it's handed back into his hands, and we run everything off him from there. Okay, all those sorts of things, plus all our lands right on Te Tai Pukarukaru or Poutini on the west coast there, from Te Anau, Murihiku, Southland, to Piotahi, Tamatea, and all the lands right up through there. And yes, some people did ask me, does it include Queenstown? Yes, Queenstown is within that claim. And all those lands, Wānaka, all those areas, Pukaki, Aorangi, all those areas, Tahumaakaakanuimatua, And right down the east coast from Kaiapoi all the way down to Murihiku. You know all our claims down there. They already have all those claims within the tribunal. Now we've added the west coast. And it's huge. Not claims. If politically, WhakataungaKereeme tried to use Tahuhapu, Ngai Tahuhapu, to claim all of that, they won't be able to. Because that has no urata rewa hapu. And even if they did have an urata rewa hapu and were a hapu, they still don't have the structure of an iwi. Okay? Because Ngai Tahuhapu does not have the 12 urata rewa that we have. They cannot steal our whakapapa, see, because they have to run that on the Carrington text. It's not where our whakapapa comes from, see? And the Carrington text whakapapa is all incorrect and inaccurate. So, yeah, it's going to be shame on them. Shame on WhakataungaKereeme for trying to put together a scheme to take control of everything that's tahu. That's not going to work. Because they don't have the uretare, but they don't have the reo. And let's not forget, this is, we're holding up the reo hapu now from using it publicly. So issues like this need to be ironed out. So that's why we've got to start talks soon with WhakataungaKereeme. Rangitane as well, we're going to go into talks. Because we have reason to believe we should be taking them to court. Okay, we've got to establish that properly. We will further do that through the investigation and bring the police in to further look through everything, make sure we've got everything. Once we have everything, we'll take everything to court. But we also have to look at the fact that it might affect our settlements and hold it up. If it does, we'll hold everything up, leave it just for our amended statement of claim, leave everything just for that, even the case against the Crown, etc., and against the assumption of sovereignty in the country via fraud. We don't mind holding any of that up and leaving everything to the claim for now. But we will, after settlements, and after settlement of Heretaunga Wairua, which is the next one we're looking to, and then after that, Horowhenua, we will take those cases out then. If not, we'll hold them up. If not able, we'll hold them up. But yeah, look, e tatauma, lots of hotted up kōrero there today, and having to get through a lot of it in order to explain a lot of the shocking, the shocking state of play and the state of the space as a result of these non-customarily built entities in the Crown, kahunu, rangitane. They're so non-customarily built. Now, because they're in a space of the customary, they're actually the trouble in the space, not us. It's been a hard case through the years, through the last, especially since 2009, watching them change. Because when they first started off, they were looking at us like we were the problem. Hey, like we were the problem. By 2013, 2014, they were the problem. Yeah, they were the problem. And the Crown, the major part of that problem. Tūhoe were also the problem. But Tūhoe were kicked by then. See, we had kicked Tūhoe to the curb. And they've been kicked to the curb ever since. And they're going to stay there, Tūhoe. They're not going to be able to move from there. Okay? But e tatauma, yeah, that brings us to the end of another kōrero. I'm so grateful that a lot of the political strategy that the kahunu rangitane and the Crown have been able to use in the past, they now cannot use to defeat us in any way. The reason I've mentioned war, I'm not saying we're going to go to wars or that that's what we want. But for a long time now, since 2009, since our teina, and not just teina, but teina mātā muri teina, went against us, the potential of war was riot in this space. Now, we've done a lot to curb that, but I swear, hundreds of times right through that whole time over the last 15 years, war was possible. Havoc. The space became hazardous as a result of the unfounded, shaky ground upon which the foundations of these groups have been established. Hence all the trouble that we've had. They have been the cause of all the trouble. They are the problem here, not us. Not Tahumaakaakanuimatua. And the first thing that should tell you that is the way that we have our stuff together. And there's no fear at all in Tahumaakaakanuimatua. We've got 70 military bases from throughout the world right behind us. We have the powers of Kohuiarai, the authority of TASS, the Te Awaroa Secret Service at our disposal. What should we fear of the mob? Who cares about the mob or what the mob says in this space? The mob would be better off to run off with their tails waggling between their legs. They'd be better off. And never return. However, in saying that, we've been able to diplomatically curb the likelihood of war. Should it happen in these regions, I'd be very surprised and very unimpressed. But me, just like every other leader in the region, would need to go along with that, because there would be nothing we can do to stop that. The old people would need to take this over from there. Okay, they know better. This is the part that I dislike, is that most of the old people have always taken sides, even knowing that the side that they're on that has been incorrect, has been wrong, has been corrupt, has been fraudulent. And a lot of those old people have been very unimpressive right through this last 15 years. So I've got a bone to pick with them after all is said and done. But if we end up going to war and, the old people jump up and down, all well and good, all well and good. If that stops everything, all well and good. But I'm not joking to you. But there is no way in the world that I'm going to have the same respect I used to have for these old people that I will have then. Okay, if you're one of those people that have supported and reinforced and helped and advised the shocking state of corrupt and criminal and tāhai state of affairs of these other groups, including the Crown, and the whole of these last 15 years, then you can go get stuff. You won't get the same respect from us. Okay? Okay, so there's Okay. Our old people, however, have been true to us, and that they continue to flourish and do things the old way. And that's the respectful way, the proper way, the Tutura way, not feudalist or tūhoe, recolonised tūhoe way, or just basically tāhai way, and ukahu, and kihau. We're not interested in anything like that. But in the same vein, if we can curb the likelihood of war in these regions, and the likelihood has been ever so close all the time. And it's still the same. You think we're scared? No, we're not scared. Okay, but hopefully we don't get to that. But the other thing is that one of the major things about today's kōrero was to express the entire and the authentic order of the state of political play at the moment. And that would sum it up. Totally. Yeah. And so that's my kōrero for today. Yeah, the whole of that would sum it up totally. Okay? Okay? And so we're in a great space. Don't you worry about that. But the other groups still need to come through with everything. We can't confirm everything without the materialization of all these things. Are they all talk? Are they all talk or what? Let's see what they got. If they got some integrity and some pride within them and some strength culturally and or spiritually, then they'll come through. Otherwise, yeah, we'll see what else we need to do in the space in order to get justice restored. And that's all we've been up to. Restoring justice all the time. Okay, why? Because no one else is cared about it. No one else sees that within the Tutura side of things, that's what you usually should be doing, is ensuring that justice is in the immediacy, where it is meddled with or cut across by corrupt means. Every likelihood and means possible and available is looked at and utilized in order to restore that justice immediately. Okay, and that's all we've been doing right through. Okay, no reira e tatauma. All my prayers go out to you all in the hope that the Lord continues to care for us all. Because the gospel is for every one of us, whether we like it or not. A lot of us, we like to refuse the Lord. The Lord Jesus, say something about the structure of Christianity, the structure of our faith and the way that we do things. There's a particular Pākehā way, but I'm not too worried what way we do it, just so long as we do things through the Christ, through the Lord Jesus, and we reach the Father. I don't really mind. I'm not really worried about those sorts of things at the moment. But before I came into the faith, I was. I didn't really like that. And, the fact that, the faith truly did look like it was a Pākehā one. Because that's all, most of the time whenever I heard Christian things or saw Christian things, they were always done in a Pākehā fashion. So, rightfully so, I guess, Lord, that's the way I saw things. But now that I, fully understand Christianity and I fully understand the Lord, I have a relationship now with you, Lord. Lord, in my prayers to you, I now ask that you bring that relationship and bring your love and bring your ability to save everybody to them. In Jesus' name. Amen. Ka apiti hono ka tātai hono, ko rātau mā tērā te mate ki a rātau. Ka apiti hono ka tātai hono, ko tātau mā turu anō tēnei tātau e tāma. Tātau te kānuhi ora, kai te mihi ati tātau mā kuau, kai te mihi ati tēnā rā tātau. Tēnā rā tātau, tēnei angahau, te mihi kaua ke nei. Kai te mihi ati mauri ora. Mauri ora tonu rā hoki ki a tātou kātua toa. Kahuri.